Tonight on The Experience, we're going to tell you about some big doings at the Worcester Historical Museum. That's coming up. First, we are very pleased that Representative Harold Naughton is with us. Thank you so much for stopping by.
You. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. I want to thank you for your service, not only to us as a representative, but also to your country, and that's really why I wanted to have you stop by. I was kind of curious as to how you sort of balance your duty, your military commitments, with your commitment to us here in the Commonwealth as a representative.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for having me, Hank. And it's a great opportunity to be here and speak with you. And like so many, I think, going back to long even before the founding of the Republic, going back to the Mass Bay Militia in 1634 up on the Salem Green, that it was the common ancestor of our National Guard, of our Reserve. I'm an Army reservist, and of the active duty Army and Armed Forces. It's been universally accepted that citizen soldiers on occasion have to step forth and support the defense of the Republic. I have been a reservist since a little after 9/11. I joined after the attacks of 9/11, and I belong to a legal operational detachment. I'm a JAG officer. I'm a lawyer by trade and Judge Advocate General. And so we drill several days a month and then have to be on active duty anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks a year. Actually, I'm going at the end of next week for 2 weeks of my annual training. And so it's a balance between, like so many soldiers, so many service members, between family, my wife and our 4 children, my work in the legislature, and my work in the Army. And it's just keeping your eye on the ball and making sure that, like so many things, so many people are so busy these days, everybody's working more. And so this is just making sure that I keep my schedule clear, and you look forward, and I make sure that I can comply with my commitments to my constituents and be there for constituent services and as much as possible for votes in the House, especially the important time of the year coming up is the budget session that we're preparing the budget right now. And we'll be debating that over the coming months in response to the governor's proposals for his budget. And then also keeping up with my training as a lawyer and as a soldier, both your soldier skills, your physical fitness and use of weapons, and your other knowledge of your skills, and my skills I'm an operational law attorney. I do the law of war.
How much do you find that there is an overlap between what you do as a representative and what you do for the military?
Sure. I'm chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee in the House. So that particular subject matter area dovetails very well with what I do in the Army. My specialty, if you can call it that, is operational law. I advise commanders on the law of armed conflict, on the law of war, shoot and no shoot, when commanders can engage troops on the ground. And of course, in the environment in which we fought here when I was in Afghanistan and Iraq, called asymmetric warfare, there's no uniformed enemy. Since Saddam's army capitulated, we've been dealing with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and other terrorist groups. So it makes it somewhat complicated for commanders on the field, and that's why people sometimes say, why do they need a lawyer out there in the field? Because of the complex situations that we find ourselves in.
It really does seem, and you talked about, of course, right after 9/11, and that really, that was sort of your call to action, I guess, fair to say. The fact is that we do have this enemy that it seems almost as if it's going to be perpetual war. That our kids are growing up in a time that is very different, where we don't just meet and defeat an enemy on the battlefield, and then there is, at some point the peace, and we've rebuilt so many of the countries that we've been in conflict with. That just doesn't seem to happen. It just does seem as if it will go on continually.
We have to be forever vigilant, forever on guard. I think our Homeland Security agencies, as well as our law enforcement and especially our military agencies over the last 11 years, have done a tremendous job in preventing any further major attacks since the attacks on the World Trade Center in Pennsylvania and on the Pentagon. And the Army and the armed forces are the tip of that spear. If we can defeat the Taliban and their allies and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Yemen, in Pakistan and in the north of Africa, that will protect us here at home. And part of that is under General Petraeus's theory of counterinsurgency, is rule of law, is governance. Right. And that's where attorneys and JAGs and soldiers with my background and my experience come in to help set up that rule of law and provide native populations, as I did in Iraq and subsequently in Afghanistan, with a sense of due process that they didn't have prior to us being there and helping them insert that.
How different is it from Iraq to Afghanistan? It seemed, for example, as you mentioned General Petraeus, that his strategy and the strategy of the surge that worked so well in Iraq didn't work as well in Afghanistan. I wasn't there, you were, but that's the way that it seemed from the newspaper articles.
I don't know if it didn't work as well or if it didn't work in the same way. And of course, it's still a work in progress. One thing we had going for us in Iraq was an infrastructure and somewhat of a Western sentiment or mentality that we didn't find in Afghanistan. Iraq had a court system. And literally the infrastructure of a court system before we got there, courthouses, and somewhat of a history of actually going back 3,000 years to Hammurabi's Code. Actually, we go back to pre-biblical times or biblical times. So there was somewhat of a meeting of the minds there, at least what we were working. We could build on the infrastructure. In Afghanistan, there was absolutely none. Both physical infrastructure, bricks and mortars, and an understanding of how we wanted to help them or what we needed to do to help them. There was a mishmash of the way they ruled their country. There was a working government in Afghanistan from 1919 when they became gained their freedom from the British to 1979, the Soviet invasion. But it really was a mishmash of, there was actually Italian law that some of their courts were based on, and some tribal law, Sharia law. And we tried to, in my work there, and in working with the courts and with judges and Saranwals, which is the Pashto name for attorneys, tried to set up on a village-to-village and a district-to-district basis some level of a working court where if someone was bothering you, not just in a national security sense, but if someone was honestly grazing their sheep on your land, as opposed to taking it into your hands and getting your sons and going out and killing that guy and his sons, you could go to the local court and speak in a shura, and which is a meeting of the elders. What's
the feeling from the people of Afghanistan when you're there, when you're working with them on this? Is it one of acceptance, resentment? Is it one of what I'm not? They're just trying to kind of grasp some of these concepts that is not their culture.
It's funny and very interesting. By and large, there's acceptance. By and large, they want to work with us. And they have a lot of respect for us. They have respect for education because they have so little of it. And we figure if we gave them a sense of due process and justice and rule of law, they'll be willing to invest in the educational systems for all their children, not just the males, but for the females as well. And as we all know, the women are not treated incredibly well in Afghanistan, and we tried to create somewhat of a level playing field for the women as well. But by and large, we're well accepted, and they want to work with us and make their life, because they do know, that at least the ones that give it some thought, we will be gone at some point. And they want to, we were in Kandahar, and if Afghanistan's among the most backward countries in the world, Kandahar is among the most backward parts of Afghanistan. Wow. It's the home of the Taliban, it's right up against the Pakistan border, and so we had incredibly little to work with. But what we did, again, on the village-to-village basis, set up some one-room courthouses, get a magistrate, a prosecuting attorney, a defense attorney. A hook was the Pashto name for someone almost like a mediator to come, and we tried to set those up on an ongoing basis.
How brave are these magistrates? I mean, that they are kind of stepping in. Has there been pushback against them, resentment of the job that they're doing?
They've been threatened, because we would, when we would leave the village and go back to our fob at night, I was at Camp Nathan Smith, the Taliban would sometimes come in at night and threaten them and tell them, you better stop cooperating with the Americans or you know what will happen. And we saw the same in Iraq as well. Right. Some of the Iraqi judges I dealt with a few years ago were among the bravest people I've ever seen in my life, because they were threatened on a daily basis by al-Qaeda.
Right. I want to talk more about this. Thank you so much for being with us. Much more to come right here on the Hank Stoltz Experience.
Because play might be the best way to fight obesity.
Because staying connected makes my family stronger.
Because a safe place after school can lead to success in school.
Because physical activity is vital to my health and well-being.
Because I need to make my world better.
Because playing team sports teaches character and social skills.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Hit the ice with the Worcester Sharks. Select games available on Charter Communications. With tickets as low as $10, it's the best deal around for family fun entertainment. Come out with your friends, family, co-workers, or celebrate your birthday with the Sharks. It's hard-hitting hockey action and fun for all ages. Call 508-929-0500 or sharksahl.com for tickets as low as $10. Hockey, hockey, hockey.
When I was young, I thought I was invincible. Like, all I needed to protect me was a cape. That might work when you're 8.
But when you get to be 68 like me, you need a smarter plan. That's what I get with Fallon Community Health Plan. Everything from Silver Sneakers Fitness, free physicals, even emergency coverage for when I travel.
I'm flying to Europe next week.
Fallon Community Health Plan. More new thinking, more you.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray, and I'm proud to partner with Charter Communications with our pledge to help raise awareness that bullying should not be tolerated. From local school students, here is our message.
Bullies are not cool. They're just cool. Be the change you wish to see in the world.
We need to foster safe environments for students in their schools and communities. Join the anti-bully crusade and take a stand to lend a hand. Don't be a bully.
Presented by the law offices of Joseph J. Kirglia.
The power, the destruction, the value. Kids seats are still half price. The Advance Auto Parts Monster Jam, presented by the Air Force Reserve. Kids seats are still half price to see the Monster Jam superstars on the battlefield of destruction, including Monster Jam superhero Iron Man, the Worcester debut of Scooby-Doo, plus 4-time world champion Grave Digger. Kids seats are still half price. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. DCU Center.
Continue our conversation now, and I just wanted to kind of pick up a little bit about that. You're actually, and I know that you're called upon to do this probably fairly regularly, talk with different groups and talk about your experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tuesday, you're doing one of these presentations to a group at a peace center. And when you sit down with them and you kind of put this together, what are some of the things that you go through about your experiences in Afghanistan and that you want to leave people with?
You know, on several levels. I want them to understand who exactly we're dealing with in Afghanistan, what they were facing before we got there, both with the Taliban and their allies and Al-Qaeda. I want them to understand the sacrifice made by the 2,500 of our brothers and sisters that are never going to come back again from Afghanistan, in addition to the 4,500 that we lost in Iraq, the 40,000 lifelong injuries that occurred to our brothers and sisters that are returning from service. I want them to understand what is meant by rule of law, and how the goal is soldiers just don't go to kill and to fight kinetically, as we call it, to invest the people of Afghanistan in a belief that if they stay and vest themselves in their country, in their educational system, in their business system, that something better can come of it. And that's what the intent of our efforts there are, under rule of law, under counterinsurgency. And I like to leave them with that. I like to leave them with a sense of the people we're dealing with. Down in Kandahar, there is more of a sense of belonging to the Pashtun nation. You could almost call it Greater Pashtunistan, which actually goes over into Pakistan. And there are people there that have more of a sense of belonging to that ethnicity than they do to the nation of Afghanistan. So we're dealing with that as well. And I'd like them to see the sacrifices made not only by our troops, but by many Afghans as well that want to work with us.
I mean, we, of course, we're a nation of laws. When you have gone to these other countries, I mean, is that, because that just seems to be ingrained with us, and we think about our freedoms and the freedoms that we want to fight for, our own Bill of Rights, I mean, our Constitution. Is that just, for example, in Afghanistan, I mean, that is just something that is very different.
It is very
for
different.
them.
It is very different, but I found many of them open-minded. We, quite honestly, and I tell the story of a certain security force in Afghanistan that we were trying to train them in ethics and anti-corruption and human rights, and explaining to them basically that they don't have to use torture techniques to extract confessions from their prisoners. And initially somewhat surprised at our request that they don't do that, and then but very open-minded that we could teach them other interrogation techniques and law enforcement and forensics techniques that they could get their job done just as well. So I did find many of the Afghan security forces open-minded.
Has that been a problem too? I mean, I think for people here in the U.S., not only the fact that it has taken us so long in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we begin to question as the American people, what are we doing? What is going to be our end game? Is there an end game? But we look really at some of the leadership in Afghanistan, for example, and we go, why are we working with these people? I mean, these are corrupt governments, and are these, they're hardly, the shining city on the hill.
And that is, in my view, and again I'm speaking for myself, not for the Army or the U.S. government, that is the biggest threat to sustainability of our efforts after we leave, is the corruption from the top down. But in my after-action reports that I filed with the Army when I came back, I said the focus should be on the local level, dealing with the local officials and setting up from village to village, district to district, the rule of law and courthouses and working rule of law on as local a level as possible. And I think it'll be sustainable at that point.
Yeah, boy, I hope so. I want to bring it back now to Massachusetts, where you work as a state representative as well, because you have clearly such a different view or a unique view to what you bring to the table when you're working on the budget, or I would think with our national discussion about, if we need some stricter rules for gun control in America. You see it, I would think, I mean, you've seen different things than many who are sitting in that legislative body have seen.
Well, as you say, we are a nation of laws, and you carry with you your experiences of life wherever you go. I've been in the legislature for 18 years. I'm proud to say that. I've served on the Judiciary Committee, I've served on the Public Safety Committee, I've served on the Higher Education Committee, I've been chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I'm chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee now. And all of those experiences you carry with you. And one of the best pieces of advice I was given when I was elected to the legislature and came in 1995 was that always be impressed with this building, but never be too impressed with yourself. And you try to carry that with you, and you remember that you're doing the people's work, and that the hopes and dreams of 6 million people in this Commonwealth, 42,000 people in my district, are invested in what you're trying to do every day. And you try to live up to that trust, and you carry that with you. And if I've learned that, if I gained some skills from the State House, be they political skills or people skills, or knowing how, kind of going back to the all politics is local of Tip O'Neill, people are concerned about a few things, about their kids, about their future, where their next paycheck, sometimes where the next meal is coming from. And as long as you keep that at the forefront, then I think you can do some good both at the State House and in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever you go in the world.
Well, now I'll ask you sort of the flip side of that. We just have 30 seconds, so maybe not fair, but the fact that you spent 18 years in Massachusetts politics, does that sometimes help you when you're over in Afghanistan dealing with some folks?
Sure it does, because you get to know what people's motivations are. And I think by and large, people's motivations are the same wherever you go. And be it for protection of their family or their tribe or their city or their district, you do. The skill set, I don't think for government or for politics there's any better training ground than politics in Massachusetts. And I think people in Washington would tell you that, and people any place will tell you that. And so that skill set has been an incredible help to me when I've gone to some of these other places around the world.
Representative, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you, really.
Greatly
appreciate your interest.
It right here. No, thank you.